Hello and welcome to the Film Whisperers here on Ben TV, where two movie nerds talk all things film with a contemporary lens. My name is Saj.
And I'm Alice.
I'm looking forward to unpacking today's topic.
Me too.
I'd like for you to share with viewers what our topic is and why did you pick it?
Today I wanted to discuss a coming of age films. And first of all, what is a coming of age film?
Very good question.
Yep, so I've got a definition here. A coming of age film focuses on a young protagonist navigating the transition from childhood to adulthood, and often through emotional, sexual, or moral awakening.
Wow,
So
okay.
I would say that generally the definition when you say coming of age, you're thinking someone is a bit younger and then they're going through some sort of change. By the end of the film, they've changed and they've gone through something, you know, whatever it is. And first of all, I wanted to discuss that type of film and why it has a grasp on perhaps older audience. And then I also wanted to kind of challenge that as well, because that's like a common definition, but I think there's a sub-definition there, at least, of, I think coming of age, it doesn't just stop and start at teenage.
I was going to say, I wasn't sure about that definition because I think you can come of age. Age is not, it doesn't really stop, is there? You keep growing. So
exactly.
I think you can have a coming of age film at different parts of your life.
Yeah, for sure. I think it can even be in childhood to teenagehood, teenagehood to adulthood, and then it can happen at any time, especially when you become an adult. There's young adult, there's a delayed adult, or when you become older into your 30s, your 40s, your 50s.
Yep.
There's so many things we go through as adults. Do we ever actually stop becoming? I don't think so.
So read that definition again, but remove the childhood to teen transition. How would it read? So
okay, so a coming of age film focuses on a protagonist navigating the transition through navigating a transition.
Yep.
Through emotional, sexual, or moral awakening.
Okay, I prefer that definition to the one that you initially read out.
Yes.
Because that's more inclusive of different ages.
But I do think that people usually, if I hear coming of age, even now, I'll think, okay, they're probably doing it's like a teenage one or it's a young adult or something. But I do prefer this.
Yes.
And maybe we can subgenre it in the future. I think that would be better.
Yeah.
Okay, so why did I want to discuss this? Because I have some friends who seem to love a coming of age film, specifically a coming of age film which is around teenagehood, around high school. And I wanted to kind of discuss that with you and unravel why they have this obsession, because it's always caught me off guard. As a 30-something, I'm not particularly interested in that type of coming of age, but I definitely love something in their 20s and their 30s. I'm more into watching something like that. I'm not interested in in high school.
I guess I'll give you maybe a quick sort of my take on why people might really be gravitating towards high school stories. I feel as if a lot of the time Hollywood has a tendency to showcase high school in a certain way. And there's always the popular girl, the popular guy, the nerds, or whatever. You have these troops of people in high school, and I feel as if they do it in a way that makes you want to be there. And I feel as if people tend to gravitate towards these high school stories because that wasn't our high school. It never is. You don't have anyone that, in Australia at least, that looks at those TV shows like your Dawson's Creek or whatever and goes, oh, my high school was just like that. So I feel as if people tend to watch these shows as a way of wanting to wish that was their high school, but it was a high school experience that they never got. I feel like that might be one of the reasons.
I think I agree with you with the American high school films that we've watched. And okay, we talk about film here, but we need to mention TV shows
course,
because it's
yeah.
very much part
Yeah.
of this. But I think that about when I watch American shows like this,
Yeah.
it is this kind of unrealistic, mythical place to me.
Yes.
And I do wonder when I watch Australian films and they give me the cringe, is it because you don't have that element of myth? Like, I've never been to an American high school, so it's like this special fantasy place.
Yeah.
And then if I watch an Australian one about high school, I'm like, oh, this is real. And then I don't have that little extra element to it where it's it's like a escapism movie world which doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I did want to mention the friends that I'm talking about are predominantly gay men. And I wanted to ask you, I am not a gay man, I wanted to ask you, why do you think that is? And I'm not saying that it is true. This is just my own experience. And I wanted to ask you, do you think that gay men are more interested in these high school films or these coming of age films? And do you think it's partly about what you've just pointed out, that they didn't get that experience in high school? Because I do wonder, and it's not just gay men, but people who weren't able to be fully themselves in high school, to be able to see that perhaps the protagonist is someone that is able to become themselves, and that's part of the charm of it. Yeah, what do you think?
I can only offer a point of view from myself and my group of gay male friends. And yes, I think a part of it is that where, especially us millennial gays, we were at that cusp end of homophobia leaving high school. I mean, you know what, I'm saying that, and as I say it out loudly, I'm not saying that homophobia doesn't exist in high schools now. It probably does. However, I think it was a bit more aggressive when we were in high school, and I bet there's still a group of millennials who probably were never out in high school and they came out after because they were afraid of the toxic repercussions of them coming out. I think that has probably changed now. I think, you know, people are definitely more out now, and I think there's a whole wave of people transitioning and being trans as well now. So it's almost gone to that the next level of people being able to be themselves. So sorry. So back to your question. So I think, and I'm assuming the people that you are talking about are millennial gay men. Yeah. So it's definitely that we never had this in high school. So let us relive this fantasy that was never us. You know, we were never the cool kids. We were never accepted by the cool kids. We were the freaks, the ostracized group. I think that is definitely one part of it. And also, I think the second part of it is there's a saying that gay men never grow up. And it's this weird thing where we tend to want to hold on to that teenage years of life. And I think it probably comes from a sense of insecurity around aging. And, you know, we always, in life in general, we always value youth, and the gay male culture is very similar in that way to the culture around femininity, and, you know, youth is always valued amongst women, and I think it's the same with gay men as well. And I think one of the ways that people probably fill their cup is by engaging with media like that, so that it just makes them feel a bit younger. And again, I'm only saying this just based on my experience and my friends. On a personal level, do I watch a lot of these high school TV shows? Yes and no, but I do it because it's got an engaging story. So the last two series that I watched that had this high school angle to it, one of them was called Love, Victor. It was a spin-off of Love, Simon. I really liked it because it spoke about a guy coming out in a Latina culture, and how his mum had a problem with it, not his dad, and I thought that was really interesting. And the other thing was, and the other show was Heartbreak High, which was the Australian TV show. It was just fun, you know. Strangely enough, the sister of one of the actors is a friend of mine, so that's why we watched it. It was like, oh, we get to see this person. Yeah, but I don't know. I guess maybe there is that need to feel youthful and to have that fantasy of the high school that gay men never had.
I'm interested in watching the coming of age films when we talk about specifically high school coming of age, but only ones that I've kind of watched when I was younger. There is some, so there is...
can we explore, like, what kind of films are you talking about?
Yeah, so, okay, if I look at the 90s kids classics, we've got, there's Stand By Me, My Girl, The Virgin Suicides.
Yep.
That's very popular.
It's not a kids classic.
It's not a kids, I wouldn't say it's a kids classic, but it's a 90s, we're 90s
so good.
kids.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
not actually in the 90s. 10 Things I Hate About You is
fantastic.
I love Stealing Beauty. That's one of my favorite like coming of age films. That's very much about a woman. She's 19, having sex for the first time and exploring Italy by herself, and it's just you've got to watch it.
Okay.
And Clueless.
Yeah.
But I also think your favorite film is a little bit...
Legally Blonde.
Yeah, Legally Blonde. I think that might be a coming of age in some ways. Like, she's older, but she's in university. But what do you think about that?
Oof, I've never had to put Legally Blonde in that genre, but let's go back to that definition. I just want to go back to that. And it is the moment where someone goes through, what were the things?
Through a sexual, emotional, or moral transition.
Okay, so I think there's definitely an emotional and moral transition with this. I think it's about a girl who is perceived to be a certain type of girl and how she challenges that, and in a way she herself realizes that being a lawyer is cool, and and at the start she's pretty much there going, everybody loves me. I'm this cool California girl, and you're leaving me for someone potentially who's uptight and like who wants to be a lawyer. And then she realizes that actually, it is okay to be this person, and it's So you can classify that as a coming of age. And
also her obsession with her boyfriend. And realizing, I don't need him. And then finding love elsewhere.
Yes, exactly.
What I wanted to mention on that is I love those films. I will rewatch those films. Even like, okay, I'm not going to rewatch American Pie, but that's like another example. Like
it is a coming of age.
And it is like kind of teenage films that we used to love. Some of them age badly. We know that. But rewatch because it's got a place in my heart and it's like nostalgic. I think that's why I like it. Puberty Blues is a very good example.
It is a coming of age film.
Of an Australian coming of age. And like you can see how popular the book was, the film, original film, and then the TV series. Like I rewatched the TV series. I was younger then when it came out, obviously. But I'll rewatch that. I can see people wanting to rewatch films from their childhood. I think that's with most films, and I can see that nostalgia for it. I think Now and Then it does have that nostalgic element to it. So you can watch films like from today, and then you see it in our childhood time. So going back and forth. I think that's interesting, but that relates to us.
I'm so glad you said Now and Then. So that would be my favorite coming of age film. So I saw it as a teenager when it came out, and what I loved about that film is it really showed the moment in your life as a child where you stop playing pretend. And the premise of this film, for those of you who haven't seen it, there's two timelines happening, and it starts with a woman who is going back to her childhood home in Indiana, and one of her friends is about to give birth, and she's sort of reflecting on where her life has gone from her being a teenager, and she's having this moment of I don't think I've ever been I've never felt as happy in my life since I was this kid and I was with my friends. And the movie then sort of goes back to a group of girls, I think they're like 12 or 13, and they end up making this whole murder mystery in their mind because one of them sees something that's incorrect, and at the end it turns out that they've pretty much made up a whole story and they hadn't realized it. And that was a moment where they realized it's time we stop playing pretend. I don't know, I think just seeing that was a very sort of powerful moment for me when I was growing up to because there's a time where as a kid you do just stop playing those childish games and I think that is a moment where you sort of leave the child in you and you start transitioning into being an adult. The cast is amazing as well. Some of those actors are still around. So we have Demi Moore, Rosie O'Donnell, Rita Wilson, Melanie Griffith's in it, and Christina Ricci. Like, it's really, really good cast. So yeah, that would be my favorite coming of age film.
I did want to mention a couple. So Lady Bird.
Oh, so
like,
good.
I really enjoyed that one.
Yes.
So I'm not saying that they're all like that. It's just that I don't have like, if I see something about teenagers, I'm like, oh, I want to watch that. But I think Lady Bird.
Alice. Saoirse Ronan can be in the Teletubbies movie, and it would be amazing.
Exactly. And then the director as well, like I love all her work.
Greta Gerwig.
Yeah, exactly. And she is similar to our age. And she's doing stories that kind of resonate to us.
Correct.
You know?
Yeah.
Also, 8th Grade with Bo Burnham.
I haven't seen that.
It's very cringe. Like I very much relate to that girl like in 8th grade. Like it's so uncomfortable. And I think I found it interesting. I thought the way it was shot and stuff, and maybe because it has that cringe element or that reality kind of feel to it, that it felt a little bit more like Australian to me.
Okay.
Like the way it was shot, and yeah, it just seemed like an Australian film to me. What we can say to that is we don't mind a coming of age as a teenager if it resonates to us.
Yeah.
And there's some, but personally we're not like obsessed. Anything that comes out about teenagers, we're not obsessed. But let's talk about coming of age in adulthood.
Yeah, there's a few.
And honestly, usually they're my favorite.
Yeah.
So I love Wild, for example. That's like one of my top favorite films. I love the book. I'm a hiker. I like, I think that hiking to kind of get through, I don't know, whatever's on your mind is really therapeutic.
The movie was beautiful.
Yeah.
And she was wanting to do that to reflect on the journey that her life had taken her and how, I guess, messed up her life got. And she just needed this thing to just restart. I think everyone should have an opportunity to do what she did. I mean, not necessarily maybe go on a hike, but actually go, like, where's my life going? What am I doing? Firstly, I mean, I'm biased. It's Reese Witherspoon. She's going to be amazing in whatever she does. But her whole relationship with the mum, oh my God, it was so beautiful.
It was really beautiful and realistic. I mean, obviously it's based on a true story. It's based on a
Cheryl
memoir.
Strayed,
Cheryl Strayed, But and they just show it beautifully in that film. Yeah, the having that relationship with a loved one like a mother, and then them passing away, and who are you after that, and what have you become, and that feeling where she feels like she's let her mother down, like her mum would be ashamed of her for where she was at that moment, like doing heroin and stuff, and she was just spiraling. Yeah. And I mean, I haven't done that before, but I think I resonate with that feeling of where have I gone? Like, what is this detour? What am I doing right now in life? Like, how did I get to this point?
Yes.
And I think that, you know, this film, self-reflection, I think everyone should do self-reflection.
Yes.
And I think this film, and a lot of these coming of age films, you know, it's about self-reflection and then making steps to change for whatever reason.
Yeah.
We can talk about Cheryl Strayed. She's coming through like cleaning up her act basically, and self-reflecting and how she got somewhere and what she wants to be.
Yeah.
But then you also have films like 40-Year-Old Virgin. Okay, it's definitely got a time and place. Like you wouldn't make it today how it is. Like it's aged.
Yeah.
But it is about a man who's 40, and it was, it's ridiculous now, but like him growing up really, or like having that sexual awakening. And then also kind of what you mentioned before, moving away from perhaps something that seemed childish at the time, which was his figurines and things like that. I don't know, like I don't particularly care about these toys. Like I don't get it, but I respect it. If people want to have their figures
Yeah.
a lot of money. Like, but basically the whole point of this film is he finds a girlfriend, he has sex, and he opens up to that part of his life.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily have to do that. I don't think we as a society think that you need to have sex now. It's a choice.
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't make you any better or worse.
Yeah. I guess two films that I'd like to talk about in terms of going through that emotional journey. Under the Tuscan Sun.
Oh yeah.
Eat, Pray, Love. And I know that these films, they do get a lot of criticism because it's the rich white lady narrative.
Yeah.
But I still think it is really, these are really powerful stories about, fine, you have privilege, but if you get the chance to just restart in life, and you do that by either moving countries or traveling places in the world that'll give you a bit of introspection, I think you should do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think those two films are, I think they're coming of age. They're older, but it's beautiful.
But I think, with women, sometimes they don't get to have that additional coming of age. Like, things get thrown on, so they get married and then they have to look after other people, have kids and look after their husbands and things like that. I'm not saying they have to, but it does happen. And then they forget about themselves, or they lose themselves because they're just looking after everyone else and they don't get to look after themselves. So that's why I think I love about these type of films is that it's about a woman stopping and what do I want, and looking after themselves and growing. And that's why I love them. But I love those films.
I agree.
I can appreciate that there's some things, rich white woman and stuff. I think that's why I like Wild so much. She's not she's not rich.
No.
And it's a true story as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
But Eat, Pray, Love's true story.
Oh yes, it is a true story.
Elizabeth Gilbert.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she was.
We very briefly spoke about this before we started recording, and where's the male narrative when it comes to films like this? And I think, in a way, and I'm only basing this off, again, interactions that I've had with my very few straight male friends, that they lose themselves as well, but more so with work. Because work ends up being a big part of their identity, and the need for them to climb the hierarchy and be a good role model to their family by being that important person at work. And the more they lose themselves at work and I guess being a parent as well, they do just have this identity crisis, but it is not spoken about. And I think it's because men probably, again, I'm generalizing here, but straight men, they probably don't self-reflect as much, or the narrative on men is that they don't do it. So
they don't discuss it.
They don't discuss it,
And then, it doesn't happen as much.
Yeah, and I think if we were to have a film, it'll probably take on a comedic effect where they go and learn golf or something ridiculous rather than...
40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yeah, it would be. Yes, yeah, exactly. So I think, The Hangover, it will be something ridiculous where it's like they go on this boys trip and they go crazy, and that's their way of just letting loose. Whereas I think the female-centric stories tell a tale from the heart, where it's actually... It'll inspire you to actually make you want to do that.
There should be more room for it. I think we need to see more of those stories. I personally would be more interested in
from men.
Yeah, I want to see that. I want to see from both perspectives.
Who will be the audience though for it? That's my question.
I would be the audience for it. I want to see someone, like, I don't care what gender you are. I'm reason I watch films is to see from different perspectives. Okay. Right. I think Moonlight is a good example of a male. Of course, it's a centered around being homosexual as well, but that film's about kind of coming of age at different ages. Childhood, teenagehood, and in his 20s or 30s. Yeah. And then Into the Wild. We talked about Wild, but there's also Into the Wild, which is also based on a true story. Yeah. I think there's definitely a bunch. There's definitely a Brad Pitt one I'm trying to remember. When he goes to Tibet.
7 years in Tibet? Yeah, I've not seen that one. I wasn't a fan of Moonlight, I'm going to be honest. Yeah. I personally didn't think too highly of it as a film. The one good thing about the film was Naomi Harris, who plays his mum. I thought she was absolutely amazing. But I think as a film, I've actually found it quite boring.
Oh, right.
And I just remember thinking at the time, La La Land should have actually won best picture as opposed to Moonlight. And I think the Oscar voters, it was a diversity card. I felt like it just was like, all right, here you go. It's a person of color. It's gay. Go. Best picture. Yay.
Well, you know me with awards. I don't
I know.
care much about this all crap, but I
yeah.
think it was beautifully shot. But
you could say that. But I didn't. I wanted it to be good, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I think for me, I love a coming of age film where someone goes on a journey. They go on a big journey and discover something about themselves.
Yeah.
And it's usually through travel. I think that's because that's what I want to do. I love adventure, and so anything with adventure I'm down for. But I wanted to ask you a question. Growing up in Sri Lanka, is there any type of coming of age film that you would want to see or you did see that was based around your cultural background, or is there space for that?
So let's start with the fact that it's really hard to find representation of different cultures in mainstream cinema. So even if I was to pick, say, India, for example, to see Indian culture represented in a Hollywood setting or in a film done by the UK, it's really hard, and I think it's less so in Sri Lanka as well. Sorry, what am I trying to say here? What will be the selling point of telling a story of someone from Sri Lanka and a coming of age story? I don't know. For me, I feel like, how can that sell? It's not mainstream enough. So I think
it's going to be an art house film, right? Yeah, it's like they do one for the studio, two for the studio, one for themselves, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just remembered something though. A couple of years ago on Netflix, there was a film called Funny Boy, and it was set in Sri Lanka, and it was, I don't think it's on Netflix anymore, but it was a coming of age film, and it was really well done, and it was set in the early 80s, and it was about a guy who was going through this journey of I guess dealing with his sexuality, and his family finds out, and how everything just goes pear-shaped, and I guess that's the closest that that's the closest that we're going to get. But I don't think anyone's heard of it. I heard of it because people in the community did mention it and speak about it, and we knew about it through that. But your average movie watcher would never have heard of it. So there you go. So I think, and I think it's because of what's the selling point. What would make someone want to watch a film about this tiny island? And I get it. It's a reality. It's a reality.
It's the reality of making films. Yeah. For me, watching films that aren't mainstream, Myth are really good. Like a film, going to see film festivals where you're seeing these small stories on the big screen, which you wouldn't usually. Definitely volunteering at Myth is good, to just go see random films that you wouldn't necessarily have thought to see, and then getting that magic of seeing a different experience. That's what I love about Myth, and volunteering at Myth. We should do it. One year we will. I've done it before, obviously, but we should do it again. But yeah, that's really interesting. And it's kind of sad that you haven't had something that you've truly resonated with in that way, like to see your own experiences shown from a cultural background. Yeah,
but you just get used to it, really, right? It is. I remember someone telling me this recently in terms of this guy was a straight white male, and he was telling me he cannot imagine a world where he couldn't see himself on screen. And for me it was, well, good for you. And I'm not saying that it's like, well, good for you. I mean, but the reality is it's not. And the more resilient you become to just accepting that is the world, the faster you don't feel sorry for yourself. You just kind of go, cool, it is what it is. Yeah. So I think, as I said, maybe one time there might be that representation, but yeah. I mean, hey, I like now and then, you find a way to find meaning in what you see and make it your story. This has been really interesting.
It has.
Thank you for talking about this. That's all the time we have for Film Whispers on Ben TV. My name is Saj.
I'm Alice. Bye.
Bye.